Okay guys, here we are, May 2022, real estate market snapshot as part of our forecast. So much stuff going on. I don't know exactly what the headline of this is going to be, but I'm thinking when I blast this out, I'm going to do something to the effect of like fasten your seatbelts. A lot of really crazy stuff going on. So let's jump right in. Our market forecast is kind of sort of over, but not. For those of you that have been following the forecast, keep an eye over the next couple of weeks. Actually, let me rephrase that. Probably over the next 30 to 60 days, we're going to continually update that. If you watch Chris Thornburg's forecast, I've been in regular communication with him. He's already made multiple changes on what he thinks may happen. So not that you don't want to go back and watch what he said, but if he was here today, it would be a little bit different because things are moving so rapidly. So our market forecast basically will continue throughout the year and probably never end. So what are we doing today? Our Inland Southern California market update, like we've been doing here, I think for the last 9 months. We're going to talk a little bit about interest rates. Yes, it's almost impossible to not know what's going on with interest rates. Even if you're not paying attention, it's impossible not to know what's going on. So we'll get you updated on those. We will do an eviction moratorium update here. It'll be short. It's generally good news. So some of you, I've been pushing you to a different direction for that. So let's start with Los Angeles County. So we've got good news, we've got bad news, we've got interesting news. Generally speaking, when I show these charts, I try not to indicate whether something is good news or bad news. It just is what it is. Take it for what you will and make your decisions. So, but some folks might say, hey, our pricing trend for LA County continues on the upward trend. It is on the upward trend, and it's basically been a little pullback in January, but it's marched back up for the first 4 months of the year. So if you think that's good, then you can interpret that as good news. Most people kind of sort of do. We don't really worry about inflation when it comes to real estate. We tend to like inflation apparently on the real estate side and call it appreciation. Here's the 12-month chart. I took the bar off, and again, they're just big numbers. We're just looking at big appreciation numbers. So what are we looking at? $820,000 median price, Los Angeles County combined. That's only up 12% from 12 months ago. But again, you got to be careful because I don't know what it was last month. We'd have to go back and take a look at it. But as these charts just shift just a little bit, it can very easily go from 12 to 18, from 18 to 12 to 12 to 20. So on the 12-month chart, that's April 2021 to April 2022, 12% increase for LA County. That was $732,000 last year. 2 years ago, $620,000, and a 32% increase over 2 years. So I guess that's the good news. All right. So supply and demand, LA County. These charts, by the way, are going to look dramatically similar. Okay. So pretty much most of what I'm going to say for LA County is going to apply to Riverside County and San Bernardino County. And I got to tell you, I don't really like what I'm seeing. So let's immediately run over to the far right-hand chart. The red bar is inventory. We saw a pullback in new listings on the market in LA County in the month of April. That does not happen. I've been doing these exact same charts with this exact same data. This is CRMLS. I use broker metrics to compile it. Been probably using broker metrics and CRMLS data for at least 15 years. I might be wrong, but I have no memory of active listings pulling back in the month of April compared to the prior month. Now we can go back and look a little bit of COVID stuff. So we've got some interesting COVID comparisons. I'm not counting COVID because that was just crazy with the lockdown in March and then may have what happened in April. But I don't like this. This is not good. If you're looking for bad news, that's bad news. All right. So there's your 24-month chart. We peeled off the trend bars. I'm giving you a little bit more of a visual here, but that pullback is not good. Also, the pullback in pendings, which kind of makes sense. We sold fewer homes in Los Angeles County in the month of April than we did the 30 days prior in the month of March. That does not happen. And again, maybe a COVID thing from a couple years ago, but every other year that I've tracked this, and it hasn't just been 15 years, it's probably been 30 years, but at least 15 years of doing this sort of stuff, I have no recollection of a April active listings and pending sales, buyers and sellers coming together and going into escrow, where it was less than it was in the month of March. That is unusual. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons this may be happening. Inflation, of course, interest rates, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. A lot of talk about recession. We appear to be building a narrative within the community of consumers that things are rough. And in very many cases, they may be rough, whether it's inflation, gas prices, whatever it happens to be. Interest rates, how that's impacting buyers' ability to buy a home. They can still buy a home, but can they buy the house today at the same price that they were going to try to buy it maybe 2 months ago? You're going to see what a dramatic change that is. So I'm concerned about that. We will see, of course, what the trend is for May. Of course, we'll know that here in 30 days or so, but that's a big deal. And frankly, I'm emphasizing it now because I'll just give you the head start. Riverside County is going to be very similar. San Bernardino County is going to be very similar. And that's very, very unusual. So what does the supply and demand look like? About 14,000 homes for sale in the month of April, down 12% from a year ago, down 5% from 2 years ago. So again, that's that red bar we were referring to. It's pulling back. And we've expected it to go down, but I didn't expect it to go down month over month. Anyway, crazy stuff. The pendings, 4,500 houses went into escrow in the entire county. That's 7.6% fewer homes than a year ago. All right. So not normal from March over to April. To see that pullback concerns me. Now, when you see this, well, wait a minute, Lance, what about from 24 months ago? That's that COVID one. So for those of you that have been watching me the last several months, I think it was last month or even the month before, I said the numbers are going to get really, really weird, okay? Well, this is one of those numbers that gets really, really weird, but it also makes perfect sense. April 2022 compared to April 2020, we were just truly figuring out what was going on with COVID. Remember the 2 weeks to slow down the curve and all the rest of that. So the fact that even though we sold 112%, put in escrow, 112% more houses April of 2022 than we did in the COVID year, that's to be expected. So that doesn't get me overly excited. What gets me concerned is the fact that we sold less houses in April 2022 than we did in March of 2022. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm hung up on it. Okay, so median price, Riverside County. Again, you want good news, there it is. The price is still continuing to charge up. Obviously, a supply and demand. Fewer homes for sale, more buyers landing on fewer homes. What are you going to get? You're going to get continued price appreciation, and we continue to see that. So there's your positives. What does that look like? $587,825 median price Riverside County, up 18% from $498 a year ago, and up 43% from 2 years ago at $410,000. It's kind of crazy to see a Riverside County median price at $580. I think, I have to go back and double check, but I think $580 was the median price in the entire state of California not that long ago, a few years ago. Really want to go back, and frankly, I probably should pull that up and double check that. That's a pretty big number for Riverside County. So anyway, 18% up. So again, price trend is nice. Now again, this is going to look very similar. So I've already said it for LA County. I'm not going to repeat it all for San Bernardino, for Riverside County. But again, let me take the trend bars off. We're seeing active listings pull back. The blue bar is smaller in April than it was in March. Fewer houses for sale, fewer people going into escrow. Again, it just doesn't happen in the month of April. But it has, at least in our two close counties, LA and LA and Riverside. What does that mean? As far as 12 months ago, it's only a little less than 1% fewer homes. Let's go back real quick. So what they're comparing this bar to this bar. It's a little different than in LA County. So compared to a year ago, the active listings are only down, let's just call it less than 1%, 20% from 2 years ago. The pendings are at 2,382. Let me step back so you can see that again, but down from a year ago. Wasn't expecting that. A big number of an increase, that's the COVID thing. LA County was whatever it was, 100 and some odd percent. Well, Riverside County, good, but 55%, it's still ridiculous. It's just a huge number. So again, same sort of trend going on there. Median price, San Bernardino County, let's take a look at it. San Bernardino County just ridiculously outperformed the rest of the market as far as values going up. Kind of sort of makes sense. I'm trying to keep these videos 15 to 20 minutes. To go into a deeper dive, I now turn these videos into 45 to 60 minutes. But again, it's a cheaper price point, less expensive price point. So we're getting this pressure maybe from other areas that are more expensive. Where do they go? Well, hey, I still want to buy a house. Maybe I don't have to worry about my commute as much because I can drive a little farther if I'm coming maybe from the coastal areas or from LA, and I'm going to move farther inland. Well, kind of makes sense. We tend to be the beneficiaries of this type of a change in market when it comes to demand. Things start to slow down on the coastal communities. They're too expensive. Interest rates are driving them. Well, I still want to buy a house. Where do I go? Well, let me see if I can bear the drive and move an extra however many miles inland from where they are. But San Bernardino County, wow, what a number as far as the price appreciation. Again, I took the bar off. You can just see this skyrocketing over the last month over month and certainly since the beginning of the year. So just big numbers in San Bernardino County. 520,000. Again, Riverside I think was 585. San Bernardino County median price at 520 is, again, that's a number that I used to cringe when I saw the median price in the entire state of California, including everything, the coastal communities, the Bay Area, the whole 9 yards. So anyway, 520, up almost 20% year over year. That's the 435 to the 525. That's where you get the 20% or the 19.5. 350 basically 2 years ago, almost a 50% increase in median price in 24 months if you're comparing April 2020 to April 2022. Big numbers in San Bernardino. So again, if you consider that the good news, well, let's share with you what is ultimately still the rough news, the bad news. Although not quite as rough when it comes to looking at the pullback in inventory. It was almost unnoticeable, but again, we would have expected that inventory level to be up in April. It wasn't. The pendings, again, I know it's hard to see on here. We'll get it to the next slide. But the blue bar, lower in April. The blue bar is buyers and sellers agreeing on a contract and opening escrow, the pending sales numbers. You just don't see it. I know it's a broken record. So where are we? 5,500 houses for sale, 2% fewer than a year ago, 21% fewer than 2 years ago, 2,100 properties in escrow, 10% fewer homes than a year ago. So you see that price bolting up in San Bernardino County? Well, possibly it's because we just had fewer houses to sell. We sold 10% fewer homes, but we sold them for a significantly higher price year over year. And again, there's fewer houses, but the buyer demand is still there. So this is your San Bernardino County numbers. I pulled Moreno Valley out. I have an office in Moreno Valley. For whatever reason, I tend not to put the Moreno Valley numbers on here because I feel like I talk about them all the time. The reality is I haven't pulled the Moreno Valley numbers in over a year, so it kind of surprised me this morning. So here's your price chart. Here's your 12-month price chart. Again, it's up. I forgot to take the trend bar off, but you can see the trend is basically up. So what is this looking like? Moreno Valley, median price, 537.5. Are you kidding me? That's what it is. Basically kind of right there in between that Riverside County, San Bernardino County number. 25% appreciation in the last 12 months. 43% appreciation in the last 24 months. Big numbers. But again, you kind of expect that because Moreno Valley is more of an affordable community. It's got more room to appreciate, kind of like a San Bernardino County. The supply and demand for Moreno Valley, again, same thing. The actives came down. I haven't ran every city. I mean, I could probably spend all day long just going through to try to give me one community, give me one zip code where the active listings actually increased in April. I imagine I could find one, but in our 3-county search and our spotlight city of Moreno Valley, we struck out on all 3. So Again, you can see the red bar down. The pendings were a little bit flatter, but we still sold less homes in the month of April than we did in the month of March in the city of Moreno Valley. So what's that number look like? Smaller sample. You guys remember, whenever we talk about our spotlight city, I'm always talking about the data sample is smaller, so be careful with that. 360 homes on the market, which is a bigger number, quite honestly. That is a bigger number than what we've seen. Actually 8% higher than a year ago. That is different. That is different than those other charts. It's a small number, but hey, it's 360. We have 8% more homes than we had on the market a year ago. So again, you're looking for some opportunities. I see that as an opportunity in a lot of ways. But it's 10% fewer from 2 years ago. 173 properties went into escrow last month. 14% more than a year ago, 66% more than the COVID year, okay? So more, right? But what they're referring to is from here to here, more homes. That's good. I like that, all right? But I would have really been happier if we would have done what we normally do, which is we start to see April improve over March, because quite honestly, we want May to improve over April, and we want June to improve over May, and we want to kind of see this, not only with listings, but we want to see this with pendings, because that's normally what we do. So we're definitely not following the trend. So there's your Moreno Valley numbers. The interest rates, okay, I said I was going to do this last month and I did it, so you got to bear with me. I've not removed these charts. There's a much more efficient way for me to do it, but this is the very first market snapshot that we shot in Adam's studio here. It was on August 6th. Kind of hard to believe we've done that many. That was your interest rate on August 6th, 2.8. So let's just go through the months as I'm flapping my gums here. September 5th, 2.8. The following month, October, call it 3. We get to November, 3. Pretty darn good interest rates, not a lot of movement. Oh my gosh, December we hit 3.11. January, 3.2. Oh my gosh, the world's ending. We have interest rates at 3.25. Kidding. Those are still great interest rates. But then let's take a look at what's happened just in the last few months. So this was 3 months ago, 3.5. Okay. March, a little bit more, quarter up. April, you notice I used a little different chart. This chart here was coming from Freddie Mac's site. I'm not using the Freddie Mac numbers anymore. I think they kind of all pull from a similar place. Starting in April, I started using the Optimal Blue site. It's a little more in real time. 4.8, April 5th. That was 30 days ago. I pulled this morning. Here we are, May 6th, 5.5. So, if you've been following me at all, and people say, oh, we're going to be in a bubble, we're going to crash, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I don't see any of that, but I will tell you, I have said, if there's anything that's going to change this marketplace, it's going to be interest rates. We've seen at least a 2% increase, depending upon how far you want to go back. Since we started tracking, let's just call it 2%, we've seen, just under 3%, we've seen almost a doubling of mortgage rates since August of 2021. So basically here we are, 5.5%. So if anything is going to change our marketplace, this is going to do it. Where do we go from here? I have no idea. The Fed met yesterday and the day before, did their 2-day meeting, came out, did a 50 basis point increase on the Fed funds rate. Most of that's already baked into the interest rate, but they're also reducing the balance sheet. So for those of you that are really nerds when it comes to this stuff, that's the thing that has the people who I trust seem to be most concerned about what the Fed does with their balance sheet, basically their acquisition of mortgage-backed securities. They're coming out and saying, we're reducing it, we're eliminating it, we're tapering it, whatever word you want to use, but that's what has everybody nervous on the interest rate side. So where these go, I don't know, but somebody I trust, Chris Thornburg, 3 months ago, said things could start to change at a 5.5% interest rate. When he said that, we were below 4%. So we'll keep an eye on that and we'll see what happens, but it's a big deal, not to mention Ukraine and Russia. and inflation and all the other pressure points that we have going on here. So that basically is the end of the market snapshot portion. I am going to take just a real quick second and talk about the eviction moratorium update. I will do a separate video on this. I'm not going to do one today, so look for it in the next couple of weeks. But the state of California came out now about 40 days ago, and in effect came, I don't remember the law, I apologize, I have it somewhere else, but said, hey, we've got a new bill we're passing, which is going to more or less extend but / modify everything that's going on with the eviction moratorium in California. It is generally a positive bill, which is moving us out of all of the moratoriums in relation to evictions in California. Now, if you have a tenant who is prior to April 30th, March 31st, prior to March 31st, if you have a tenant who hasn't paid their rent and they've applied for all of the COVID eviction protections, you still got to deal with that, okay? But since April 1st forward, so now we're almost 40 days, any tenant that is basically kind of fallen behind or has not applied for some sort of prior COVID relief protection, those protections are gone. They're in effect operating under the normal eviction rules that we were dealing with pre-COVID. This is generally a good thing. So there's my eviction moratorium update. If you're really, really interested in it, I'm going to do a more in-depth one here shortly. So thank you for watching our May 2022 Market Snapshot, and there's more to come. Fasten your seatbelts.